Hey everyone, this is David Brown with the migration update for March 3rd, 2023 from the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch. Today was overcast with temperatures just above freezing and a moderate easterly wind with a big snowstorm approaching from the southwest. The bay has opened up a little bit more, but it's still ice covered in the marina and along the near shore. Okay, let's take a look at some of the birds from today, starting with this adult Cooper's hawk. Remember, Cooper's hawks are accipiters along with sharp-shinned hawks and northern goshawks, and one characteristic of those three species is that they have long tails. Now, this Cooper's hawk is doing sort of a special flight that they do. You can see how it really has its wings extended up, almost touching on the up flap. And this is sort of a territorial flap that they do. When they're protecting their nesting range. A lot of times you'll see them do it when they see another Cooper's hawk that they're chasing off. And I think maybe just these slow, big flaps are a way for them to look bigger than they actually are. But it's kind of a neat behavior to see. And you can notice that this bird is orange underneath, which is characteristic of adult Cooper's hawks and sharp-shinned hawks. And you can't see it great in this photo. You can make it out a little bit. You see these white undertail coverts are kind of fluffed out. And you have to be a little bit careful sometimes because some people will see those and think that that is the white rump of a northern harrier, when it's actually just sort of the undertail coverts fluffed out onto the side. So when a Cooper's hawk is doing this flight, you'll get that flash of white and you see big slow flaps. You might mistake it for a harrier. So just be aware of that. It was a pretty good day for goose and swan migration. So here we have part of a flock of snow geese. And again, snow geese are white with black wingtips. Compare that to this Tundra Swan, which has a much longer neck and no black at all in the wings, just completely white wings, no black wingtips like we saw on the snow geese. Here we have a bald eagle that's not quite in full adult plumage yet, but I bet next year it will be. Here we have two immature bald eagles playing, fighting, going at each other, whatever they're doing. Here's another look at one of the immature bald eagles, and you can see it's kind of a messy looking bird. It's got some wear on the feathers here. It looks like this feather's growing in, and it's got kind of a ragged trailing edge to the wing because of the combination of longer retained juvenile feathers and shorter replaced feathers. Here's an older immature bald eagle that has an even trailing edge to the wing because it's already replaced all of its juvenile feathers. Here we have a Downy Woodpecker, our smallest woodpecker. You can see they have a relatively small bill, kind of small size overall with this black and white pattern. When they fly, they have kind of an undulating flight pattern. Looks like this one's a male because I think I can see some red on the back of the neck. Here's another flock of Tundra Swans migrating over or possibly dropping onto the bay. And again, notice no black on the wingtips. Here we have two mute swans. Remember, this is a non-native species that's quite numerous in this area. And instead of the black bill of the Tundra Swans, the mute swans have this sort of orangish bill and a bit of a black knob in front of the eyes. Here we have a flock of northern pintails, and notice on the males they have these long tail feathers. And even the females are quite pointy in the back as well. Here we have a group of American Wigeons. And for identifying ducks from a distance, one of the good field marks is looking at where the white is located. And you can see that the Wigeons have white in this area here and then sort of a darker patch behind it. So that's different from something like Gadwall, for example, which this area here is the area that's white, not farther up on the wing. There weren't as many gulls around today, but there were still at least a couple hundred. So here we have a ring-billed gull, adult, and we see that classic eponymous black ring on the bill. Here's another immature bald eagle. And again, this shows what I was talking about earlier, that the juvenile feathers, meaning the feathers that the bird grows before it leaves the nest, its first real plumage, those wing feathers are longer than the ones that grow in when they're replaced. So all of these longer feathers on the wings are ones that it grew in the nest, and all the other wing feathers that are shorter are ones that have been replaced. So this is a bird that would have been born 2 summers ago. Ones born last summer would have all juvenile feathers that are the same length. Ones born 2 summers ago would look like this. Ones born 3 summers ago might only have one longer feather remaining, or they might all have been replaced by now. Here we have an immature herring gull, so big and bulky and very dirty looking underneath. Here we have a juvenile bald eagle, so like I just mentioned a minute ago, the trailing edge of the wing is even because all of the feathers are the same age. So these were feathers that were grown while the bird was in the nest, its first real feather plumage. Now, the interesting thing about this bird is it looks quite fresh. So a lot of juveniles would have been born, let's say, last May, last June, and by now they would show signs of some molt on the underside. The underside becomes more brownish. You would see some wear and tear in the feathers. But this bird looks quite fresh, so it would be interesting to know where this bird came from. Here's a topside view of the same bird. It's possible that this is a bird that was born down in the southern USA at some point over the winter and is migrating north. That's a phenomenon that we see quite often as we get later in the season. Birds that we say were born in Florida is usually the example we use to keep it simple. But birds that can be born over the winter down where it's warmer, they migrate north during the spring. But it's kind of unusual to see such a fresh juvenile eagle in early March. Here we have a common raven, and how did I know that it was a common raven? Well, it came from behind me, and when it got directly overhead, it let out this really loud call. And ravens have kind of a deeper pitch call than the caw of the American crow, so pretty distinctive. You can also see the large bill of the raven. From this angle, some of the other field marks are hard to see, but usually when I think of ravens, it looks like you took a crow and you grabbed it by the wings and stretched it out, and you grabbed the head and tail and stretched it out. They just look a little more elongated than crows. Here we have a northern harrier that was hunting the marsh in the grassy areas, and this looks to be an adult female because we see that streaking on the upper breast. Here we have some common mergansers, and it's quite a common duck. There's a lot of them out on Braddock Bay right now, but sometimes they don't get the love that they deserve, so I thought I would include a photo of them. In this photo, and in bad lighting, sometimes it looks like their heads on the males are black, but actually they're green. And at the end of the day, I saw this American robin sitting up in a tree looking cold, and I was standing out in the wind also cold, so thought I would take his photo. Taking a look at the eBird list, I had 44 species today, which again is pretty good for early March. Been pretty good birding in the past couple days just because of the big variety of ducks on the bay. You get a pretty high species count, even though there's not many songbirds around. And like I said, it was a decent day. You can see 860 snow geese, 900 Canada geese, 225 Tundra Swans. So it was nice to see those species on the move. And if we take a look at hawk count for our migrant raptors, we had one bald eagle and one merlin, which was the first falcon of the season. And it was pretty distant. It was out over the mouth of the bay, right along the top of the barrier island. So too far to get photos, but nice to see the first merlin of the season. So we had a total of 2 raptors today. And if we take a look at our rivals over at Derby Hill, they probably also had a terrible day. What? 42? 16 turkey vultures, 17 red tails, a roughleg. Okay, they do better on easterly winds than we do, so looks like they had a decent day. Oh well. And if we take a look at the forecast for tomorrow, well, we're supposed to get 5 to 8 inches of snow overnight. It's snowing outside right now, so we'll see what ends up happening. But for the daytime, snow and gusty winds in the morning, and then cloudy in the afternoon, winds north-northwest at 20 to 30 miles per hour. So the count will either be delayed or more likely canceled, but either way, there's not going to be any hawks migrating, so it doesn't matter. For Sunday, we're looking at cloudy with a high around 40 and winds west at 10 to 20. So overall, those are decent conditions, but still early in the season, so I wouldn't expect it to be a ton of migration, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a few birds migrating. For Monday, we're looking at cloudy skies with the potential for afternoon snow showers. High 36, winds east-northeast at 10 to 15, so not a great wind direction and a little bit stronger than we would like, so wouldn't expect a ton to be migrating raptor-wise on Monday, but we might see a few things. And I'll leave you with one final thought. I was thinking today about these early March days and how we only get a few raptors, and you might think, well, it's not really worthwhile to be out there. But really, this time of year to be out there and see the migrating snow geese and tundra swans and the variety of ducks out on the bay, that's something that's really unique to this couple week window here, end of February, early March. So get out and enjoy these kind of birds while you can, because once we get to the point of the season where we're getting a lot of migrating hawks, then we won't have this great waterfowl variety. So there's always something happening. So enjoy the birds that are around now. Don't worry about what's going to be happening a month from now, 2 months from now. Just get out and enjoy the seasons as they happen. From Lyco Birds, this is David Brown. Thanks for watching.